Hey everybody, this is Kenny. Welcome back to the Sports on the Positive Tip podcast. I'll be joined by my partner, Kenny Squared, in just a few moments. This is where we have conversations at the intersection of sports and faith. And we had a wide-ranging conversation about faith with the host of the Yield Today podcast, Dallin Candland. And we talked about the small wins that you can get. How do you just develop great habits? Journaling, what does that really do for you? And the value that he brings to others almost immediately. I just scratched the surface on what we talked about. We also talked a lot about basketball too. So hang out with us. It's a great conversation. We'll talk to you in just a few moments. Stay tuned.
This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. How do funded startup founders attract prospects and talent? Podcast interviews. How do entrepreneurs with exits find new deals? Podcast interviews. How do C-suite execs differentiate in crowded markets? Podcast interviews. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. Click the link in the show notes for a special offer. Celebrate good conversation.
Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny and
Kenny Squared
with the Sports on the Positive Tip podcast. And we have got a special show today with a phenomenal guest. I can't wait for everyone to hear and pick up what he's dropping, man, because he's going to drop some great advice for us. We're going to talk some scripture. We'll talk about some sports. We're just going to have a phenomenal conversation. So without further ado, the host of the Yield Today podcast, Dallin Candland, is with us today. What's happening there, sir? It's so great to see you.
We're just loving the moment, dude. We're just loving the moment because it's like we're not gonna get this moment back. So yeah, we're just loving the moment. You know, lately I've been writing down 3 things each day that I just celebrate, and for me, just making a habit of celebrating each day has made a difference. So that's what I'm up to right now, Kenny.
Yeah, that is all. Kenny, if it's okay, I want to start there, and then I'm going to let you take over. Because I love that you said that. It stood out so much for me on your writing. And I think you had mentioned first 750 words you were writing a day, and then you've really increased it. Why don't we start there? Because I thought that was so inspirational.
Yeah, you know, it's tough because I don't think we realize it, but so much of the writing is happening in the background, like while we're sleeping, while we're walking, while we're playing basketball. That's where so many of our thoughts are getting worked on. And I believe that we can have God work on them too, is when we let him be in those pieces of our lives, is when we let him work on that. And so when I get to writing or podcasting, most of it's already written down. It's already created. I just have to speak it. And I think where it really starts, at least where me getting more serious about writing, was I did a business in college that we did for a class, and they had an idea of us to each make Instagram accounts to help promote the business. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. But I did feel like the prompting one day, like, hey, Dallin, you're juggle, you do this stuff, just start sharing little thoughts, and you don't know what it can come to. And you know, now there's over 800 posts on there, and some of it's just, there's just so much writing, you know. I love writing. There was this one day in 2020 that I was just having a really rough day, and it was like midnight and I couldn't sleep. So I came back after that long walk in the snow of Rexburg, and it was freezing, and I got to lay in the snow, and I had 2 amazing poems. And this one poem I'm going to share with you guys on the podcast, if you're up for it, is called Patience in These Pages. That also comes from a really rough day. So for me, writing provides clarity. And for me, I have another poem that I think of it as like a tow rope to get closer to the divine. That's how I look at my writing. It's a way to like get a little closer to feeling what he feels about me and how he feels about my life. And so I rejoice. I share a lot of that through my writing.
Wow. I love that. That is so awesome. So awesome. Kenny, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Well, I want to just start with this. Tell us a little bit about your story. Like, how did you get started with a YouTube channel, and like what got you to the point of now starting 2 podcasts?
I think where it starts is being told no. I don't like being told no. It's like, I know I have all this ability. And so if you tell me no, I'm going to work on something else. I'm going to do something else. So back in high school, I got told no with making the basketball team. And I had plenty of people that said, like, you're not good and whatever. And so my mom and I talked about it, and I decided to be the basketball manager instead. That led to me doing track, which led to me kind of getting on this new path. And yeah, the YouTube channel and all these other things came from that, of like, I don't like being told no. I like trusting the Lord's path for me. And I believe really strongly that God will make a way where there is no way. And there's been times, and especially at that tender age of like 13, 14, where social media wasn't really around. A lot of these things have kind of come into play in the last decade. And all the while, a lot of these feelings I've had deep in my soul feel like they're finally getting ability to express themselves. So a lot of it is just joy, because he's been bringing to pass a lot of things that he's been promising me for a long time.
Wow. That's awesome.
Nice. That's awesome. Cause like, I feel like sometimes like we really get to those points where we're like, when we get told no, we don't really know what to go to next, but it seems like you were like, I'm going to trust in God and I'm going to keep going forward. And I feel like part of that is the idea of small wins. How important do you see small wins like throughout your life?
I think it's vital to have those things that you say, this is a win no matter what. Like, no matter what. That's how I look at my running. That's how I look at my writing. Like literally yesterday on my 750 words, like I used to like be a little iffy because I'm very particular about what I do on Sunday. I think of that as like my, worship day kind of thing. But I was like, if this helps me be more clear and be more able to speak to people and have more love for them, then this is worth it. But yesterday, my 750 words was literally like, I don't really know what I'm writing, and this is stupid, and I'm still trusting God, and this is going to be okay, blah, blah, blah. It's like, done. That's fine. With me doing high school track, is like, there was times where I was like, I would run, we're doing these 30-minute runs, and I'd just jog really, really slowly. And then I'd, just keep going at that little tiny jog. But that led to like doing way, way better down the road. And so, having those things, it's like, this is a win no matter what, is such a beautiful thing. I think celebrating it comes into play, because if you're getting closer to like that life that you want to live, then yes, please celebrate that. Like even just a tiny little step forward, it's beautiful. So I think it's vital. I think it's vital to appreciate the little wins. I think Atomic Habits by James Clear, I've read that a couple times already, and different things stand out. Those things that you keep sacred, like if you keep those small wins like built into your day, then it's definitely going to add up for you over time.
Awesome. Well, it's funny you mentioned Atomic Habits. I had heard it actually on another podcast about that, and I just started reading it. So it's good to know that I'm in store for great things. But also, what are some of the habits that you're proud of right now? You'd mentioned writing 750 words. What else are you proud of?
I'm pretty proud of my cold showers. I've done them for a little over 5 years now. So I started back in 2018, and there's times in building habits, Kenneth and K squared, that I think they help like solidify the habit for you. Like, how strongly am I actually going to do this? And there's this one day in like mid-January, I was back in Maryland for a friend's wedding or something. And it was like, I really don't want to do a cold shower, and it's winter, it's cold, but I'm like, if I don't, then I'm going to think about this. A lot of this is like, I want to remember this differently. And so I'm going to make the memory I want now in the moment. And so it's funny. It's gone through various iterations. I was at the point where I'll only do hot showers. I'll do hot showers Sunday morning, so I have something to look forward to, and at night, because they help me cool down so I can sleep better. And then cold showers in the morning are just so helpful for me. I did them all throughout, basically this whole time. There's times where I don't take a shower because I like wimp out a little bit, but I'm getting out of that. And what I did recently is I'm like, you know what? We're making that one decision. We're not turning back. So now it's, showers, cold showers all the time, unless it's at night, and then it's hot showers. None of this like Sunday is okay to take a hot then cold shower. It's just done. If I want a hot shower, it's at night. If I want a cold shower, it's in the morning, and there's no in between there. So that for me works because I have ADHD and I was diagnosed at 20, and there's a lot we could go into with that too. I'm really fascinated about that part of the story too. But yeah, I love my cold showers. I really do.
Oh
Nice.
my gosh. Cold
Take it
shower.
away.
Well, I want to give you time and space if you'd like to talk about the HDAT and how that has really interwoven with this amazing story that you're building. I would love to hear that, but first I want to say that I'm not sure I can take a cold shower. I mean, what? So let me ask you this first, and then I want to give you space to talk about how that ties in with your story. What's the significance of a cold shower? What does that actually do?
I made an Instagram post a little while ago about 3 things that it really does for me. One is that it sets me apart. Kind of going back to the no thing, I don't like being told no.
Yes.
If you want to have a more likelihood of being told yes for something, that you have to be doing stuff that sets you apart. If you do what everybody does, you're not going to be set apart. And the Lord is all about like, this is special. Like, you know, in the Bible, it's talking about these are my covenant people. I'm setting them apart. You know, I'm setting them aside. That is what I'm doing right now, and that's what I'm doing in each of them. I come back to this one story right before college started. We my family and I, we went on this RV trip, and there's these like showers that we got to be in. Obviously we're sleeping in the RV, but we took showers to this place, and my dad was like, Dallin, these showers are only cold. Like, what the heck? And I'm like, yeah, babe. Oh, let's go. That's great. We love that. It's like, I don't even have to switch. I don't even have to change anything. It's already there. So for me, it really helps with relieving any feelings of anxiety that I feel. And it also is just kind of like, it's nice. Like there's a lot of natural dopamine that comes from it. And I think that's a big part of it, is because when you have ADHD, you have lower dopamine thresholds generally, which means you can have more of these things happen and you don't really feel anything. And that's for me a little scary. It's like I have all these things going on well, but I don't feel anything. It's not necessarily a depression, it's the ADHD. So I would say there's that. And I have a little routine. Like sometimes I'll meditate a little bit. I have like a scripture I share, so I have a little fun with it. And sometimes I'll play a song, you know. So I do a lot of that too, because another part of the ADHD is you need novelty. It can't be the same thing over and over and over again. And I guess one other thing that I was going to say too is just that sin brings about sameness, right? So like we're not meant to be all the same, right? And yeah. I know that kind of goes back in that other direction, but I wanted to share that too.
Yeah, no, I'm admiring everything you're saying, man. That is so awesome. So if you would go ahead and go down, you mentioned a couple of things there about the attention deficit disorder and how it's helped. What other ways has that played into you? So because it's so apparent to me that doesn't define you, but what other ways has that now played into this amazing story that you're building?
I think it's a crucial part of the story. It's a very important part of the story that if my focus does get diverted, then I'm going to start feeling less like myself. So I think of it as like having sort of like a laser-like focus. That's generally how they talk about hyper focus. Like if you have 120, I think it's 120 amps or watts in a laser, you can cut through metal. But 120 watts is also what's in a light bulb to light up a room. Mm-hmm. And so if you have it very focused, you can slice through things. So I saw it all the times in college where if I set aside like 1 or 2 hours right after running, I could get basically anything done because I was so much more able to hyper focus. And that goes along with what's talked about in Spark by John Rady, is that after you do like 30 minutes of moderate exercise, your body is much more able to focus for the next 60 to 90 minutes or so. It's going to be more relaxed and a lot more able to focus. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I live for. But it's crazy because if I'm in a place where I don't really have a lot of control of what's going on, or it feels like a lot of choices are made for me, I'll start to shut down. And I'm like, I need to take some control of the situation. I'll go for a run. I'll do whatever. Cause yeah, that's just kind of how it works out for me.
Wow. Amazing. And I love how you just flipped the script on all of that. That's fantastic. Okay, Ken.
Um, so yeah, oh, I thought I had a question. Hold on. Oh, so yeah, how do you end up making any moment a great moment? I think you kind of talked about it a little bit more earlier, but if you could elaborate on it real
This is so
quick.
stupid. This is one of those ones that I wrote, and it's like, what I really love is, as I've been doing a lot of this writing and stuff, is a lot of the best parts of me, I feel, are coming out a lot more naturally. I don't have to, it just kind of comes out, and it's fun to see those little things pop up. But the way to make any moment a great moment is to say, this is a great moment. That's basically it. And to do different things that, like, the brain is it's a coding mechanism, basically. So like there's a lot of other parts to it, but we can tell ourselves what a great moment consists of. So if a great moment consists of, I will drink this juice, or I will read this scripture, or I will pray, then anytime you say this is a great moment, then you can go and do those different things that are attached to it. But it's important to remember, Romans 8:18, I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us. So in some way, this moment is a great moment because it's leading up to greater moments in the future.
Wow.
Nice. And I feel like also like, because in James it talks about the power of the tongue. We always look at it as like, be careful about what you say. But I feel like kind of in the reverse effect, like you should be careful about like what you say, not so that you hurt other people, but more so that you can give power to yourself. And it seems like that's one of those things that you really have like a strong grasp on. What kind of got you to the point where you really saw how important it was to talk about yourself in a much more positive way?
It's tough because I think we have a lot of conversations, and I think either of you could talk about this. So feel free to chime in after I share my spiel. There's a need to interrupt conversations. So when in Matthew 4, I wasn't planning on sharing this, but I was going to talk about this in Flecks of Gold later this week. So there you go. Like when Jesus was getting tempted, it's like, hey, like you could turn these stones into bread. You could throw yourself off of this temple and angels would rescue you. And Jesus is like, man will not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds forth from the mouth of God. And shares these scriptures, these things from him, to interrupt the conversation and to basically say no, but, in a decisive way. And for me, there needs to be the ability to break up that conversation, to be like, I hear what you're saying, but I also, this is where I'm at right now. This is what I'm working on. So I came up with this thing called the identity tape, and it has things that I celebrate in the moment, stories I'm telling myself, and things of that nature. And it's around 3 or 4 minutes. I try to listen to it a couple times a day, just to kind of remind me what I'm focusing on, what I'm celebrating from past, like from the previous season, if we're thinking like basketball or anything like that, but also what I'm looking forward to. It helps to do that because we can have all kinds of different things come up all the time. And if we don't take some kind of active role in that, then it's going to bog us down. And it's tough because so many thoughts are all over the place. But when we write it down, now it's like we have some kind of beauty there. There's something there, something's able to get out. When I have a really, really rough day, I get really excited generally. I'm like, there's an amazing poem in here. I just have to hold on and be patient. And once I get to writing that poem, it is going to be a banger poem, no doubt about it. I promise you. So that's how I look at it.
Nice. So it sounds like if people want to listen more, they need to check out Flecks of Gold podcast, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to find me.
Yeah.
But that's one way. Yeah. I'm doing daily scripture thoughts on there, and then I have Yield Today I've been doing for a while, but yeah, it's fun to have multiple like things to juggle. That's how I love that.
Nice.
I want to talk about the podcast that I listened to. I've listened to several, but that one I didn't listen to till today. I looked back at the notes. Oh man, he asked me to listen to this a while ago. And that setups football and patience. And there was some great nuggets that I took from there that you really combined into a sports analogy. You said that God is the playmaker, You said you should always be able to flex. But there's we could talk about those two, but the other two that really stood out for me, and I love that you talked about this. You talked about restraint and how it's because I struggle with this, man. And there'll be a song that I remember from the '80s. It comes on, and I'm like, oh yeah. And then, should I be listening to this? Talk a little bit about that and how you've used that in your podcast, but you also use that in your life, and how you've gotten to that place where you're able to show restraint.
So I really love scripture. So there's a lot of scripture that talks about like bridling your passions and letting yourself have love for other people. There's a text called the Book of Mormon, I believe in, as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that talks about bridling your passions so you can be filled with love for other people. And I think this is exactly what opposite of what the world teaches is like, no, like show all the love that you have, hugs all day long kind of thing. And I think there's a lot of beauty in that, but I go to Ecclesiastes 3. There's a time to refrain from embracing. There's a time to embrace. There's a time to love. It's important to do that. There's a hymn that I sang in church, and it's probably the one that's made the most impact on me. There's a hymn we'd sing in church. It's hymn number 336 in the hymn book, and it's called School Thy Feelings. So, school thy feelings, O my brother, train thy warm impulsive soul. Do not its emotions smother, but let wisdom's voice control. School thy feelings, there's power in the cool collected mind. Passion shatters reason's tower, makes the clearest vision blind. School thy feelings, oh my brother, and then it goes along well with Proverbs 29:18, that where there's no vision, the people perish. So like if you're doing something and there's not really a vision, whether it's a relationship or whether it's a business or whatever it is, like passion is not going to fuel your journey completely. It's just not how it works. Jesus talks about how you can't build on the sand and expect it to stick around for a long time. You have to build on him, build on his rock, his word. And that's where you're going to find true peace and happiness and everything like that. All the things that the world is looking for, you'll find through Jesus. that is the facts of the matter. So
yeah. I just thought it was so awesome. And it was awesome just now the way you put it. And it's so awesome in the show, in the podcast that you do. And it's such an important point, especially I was starting to say, so let me correct myself. I started to say for younger folks, but I just finished saying that, I fall into the same traps. And so I thought it was such a great lesson for all people. We're going to transcend into sports in a second because you talk also about running the route, but then you described this amazing catch that you made. Talk a little bit about that.
Oh boy. This was back in back at the Turkey Bowl, and you probably remember better than I do because that was a little bit ago that I recorded that.
Yeah.
But if I do remember correctly, like there was like this play, and I jumped at like the right moment, like at the precise right moment, and it was one of those things that if I'd waited any longer, if I jumped any earlier, I probably would have missed it. But since I jumped at the exact right time, it was groovy. It was McDonald's with the shake or something. It was all good. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, exactly. Yes. But also you said that you related it back to sometimes God has that path for you and we veer off at times. And I thought that was so, because there's so many times we're watching a football game, right? And especially if it's a good analyst, they'll say, oh yeah, they jumped the route, or they misread the route, they ran the wrong route. And I love the way you correlated the two. I thought it was just awesome. Gave me a good word picture for that path that Jesus has for our lives, and that we need to run that route. But yeah, you described it perfectly there. Ken, you want to? I mean, we got to find out what kind of fan this young man is. I mean, and we can talk some sports here, because since I kind of opened the door here from his podcast where he talked about football. Hey, so did you go to BYU?
Yeah, so I went to BYUI, and so they don't have any sports teams when I was there.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
But so I mostly I love following like individual like personal stories. Like I'm fascinated with Tyus and Trey Jones and Seth Curry and Steph Curry,
Yeah.
and just any people that I like following their stories. As far as basketball, I follow the Jazz. I don't really follow any football. No offense against football.
Yeah.
I love football, but I just didn't really grow up with it a ton in the house. And so it's kind of like I have to put myself out there, going against the grain a little bit. And so
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll kick it off on Utah Jazz basketball because I think there's a long, rich history there, and they started off so well this year, didn't they? And we thought didn't they have the best record for a while in the West earlier in the season, and they kind of fell off. But you've got the tradition, and you might be a little young to remember the Karl Malone and John Stockton teams. What was some of your thoughts on those great teams that just never quite got over the hump to beat Michael Jordan, and got to the finals a couple of times, but just couldn't get over that hump?
I love Assisted. It's John Stockton's memoir biography book.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it talks about how there were times when they would be running these like super long, elaborate training drills all throughout this school, and they'd be dripping in sweat and everything, and how it was preparation for when they played against people, they were whooping trash, right? That's how my uncle would say. There's whooping some serious trash because they practice so hard. But I love the John Stockton and Malone dynasty. I mean, I remember playing NBA Jam on the Super Nintendo and doing really well with them. And I think Lauri Markkanen is doing a lot of good with the Jazz, and I'm pretty impressed with him. And I mostly just, to be completely honest, I was working at this like DI place, this it's basically secondhand store, right?
Yes.
And I bought this Jazz jersey, not wearing it right now. And then I brought this Jazz hat, and it's like, okay, I'm going to wear these when I watch Jazz highlights, and I'm a Jazz fan, right? And so I'm not quite there yet, but I'm excited to dive more into the world of sports there. But I love like seeing the behind the back passes and all of that stuff. I've been watching those kind of highlights for a while.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay, Ken.
Well, I have to ask, since I'm in Cleveland here, and obviously Donovan Mitchell was traded to the Cavs, and he's been great this year for them too. But like, how has kind of the general perception been of that team? Because like, I know they have a bunch of draft picks. They've got a lot of young guys. Like, are people excited about it? Do they think like this is a team that could like really go places in the next couple of years?
I'd say the next couple of years they could do like pretty good. I think they're getting some good traction. I mean, they have a new coach, and he's been just like, let's just get some things rolling here. And I know that offensively they've had like some of their highest scoring games in comparison to their opponents, but it looks like from some of the highlights I watch, like they get really close on even some of these good teams, and there's just a little bit loss of steam at the end, or some bad plays that are made. And that's just kind of momentum in basketball personified, is that you can never say like, oh, we're ahead so far that we can't get conquered. We have to keep you have to keep like playing ahead. And I think it's just a matter of time. I mean, I think of what the book Atomic Habits with the Sir Brailsford, with that one bicycling team. Just you make those tiny improvements and it adds up. So I don't really know exactly what it's going to look like. I'll have to dive more into it so we can have a more in-depth conversation about that next time. But yeah, there's no doubt the seeds are there, and as long as nobody makes any stupid decisions, I think it's going to be good. It's going to keep getting better, and we'll see where it peaks, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say probably, I guess you could make a case for Jimmer Fredette, but Danny Ainge is probably the best basketball player, I think, that came out of BYU. And now he's, the general manager there. So he's sort of come full circle and come back home, I think. And he's had an enormous amount of success with the Celtics over the years. So I think he'll make some smart moves, and I think he already has. That definitely is a team that's building for the future. I watched some of them yesterday. They were on against the Lakers, and they gave the Lakers all they wanted. I mean, hustling on that last game of the season. Um, but I think you guys have a lot to look forward to, with that team. I think they're going to be good over the next couple of years. I'm a Knicks fan here in New York, so I'm pumped up. Although your guy though that was on those teams, Jeff Hornacek, he didn't do a great job as a coach
Oh
here.
gosh.
That was, but we're on a positive tip, so we're not going to talk about that, But yeah, it's all good. This has been amazing, man. You just gave us so much. And is it okay if I go back and ask one other question, Ken? Not about sports, because
Go for it.
I found this to be it really speaks of your character in such a great way, where you talk about you want to always add immediate value to anybody that you meet, and you say you do it like in 30 seconds. I love that. Talk a little bit about that, and then we want to ask you how people can hit up on your two podcasts.
So for me, so a lot of the podcasts like Yield Today came from this acronym I came up with for the word yield. Like there's Romans 6 that talks about like yielding yourself as an instrument to God. It's stuff. It stands for yes, I envision love demonstrated. And so I believe that God envisions love for our lives all the time, all the time. He sees how we can use his love to help us in our day and everything like that. So I'll bring you back to, I think it was 2 days ago. So on a trip back with family, we stopped at this gas station, and I'd been like, I was a little bit out of it. And I was like, I usually go into gas stations and talk to anybody there. That's just what I do. Kind of going back to the cold shower thing. It's like a non-negotiable. I just do it at this point. Mm-hmm. And usually nothing happens. Like usually it's just kindness and whatever. But I was like, generally when I don't want to do it, that's when I need to do it the most, like with prayer or when anything like that. Or if I am feeling this way, like whatever, I'll just go. And I just say like, 30 seconds. That's like nothing. So, walk in there. And then I actually was like, I'm going to go pray. So I went and just prayed in the bathroom. It's like, I don't care. Like, who cares? Like, who cares? Right. So I had the thought, like, God has a beautiful plan. Like, God's plan is beautiful. That like came to mind. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to share that with whoever is in this gas station and see where it goes. Because how I look at it is chances are I'll never see this person again. And if there's this crossroads, right? So if we treat each other kindly, then it's much more likely we'll run into each other again. And if not, well, at least we were kind to each other. Chances are that that crossroads is not going to be very long. And so you got to make the most of it. So yeah, I walk in, start talking with this lady, and I was like, I was just thinking about like how God really does have like this beautiful plan. Like it talks about in Isaiah about having beauty for ashes. And I don't know how you feel about that, like if you're a believer or not. And we ended up having this really great conversation. Her name was Cinnamon. And she actually said she'd check out the Fucks of Gold podcast. I talked about that conversation in a recent episode. And she gave me some of her family members I could pray for. And I was like, this is really cool. Like, this is really cool. Like, this doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
And so when it does happen, I just rejoice in it. And I try to listen and to let people speak about themselves and to, just share what's on my mind and just help them feel heard. And that's that. I think it's episode 29 maybe of Yield Today. It's talked about providing immediate value. And it talks about listening with people, listening to what they're saying, having something to give. So like with me, it's like, that's the Flex of Gold podcast that could potentially, change their life. Maybe, I don't know, like you listen to it every day in the morning or something, it could help you read scriptures more. And that leads into a lot of things. Then the last thing is journey, which in college, sometimes I was like walking really long distances with people because I wanted to talk with them and I wanted to like be in their story very briefly. I love playing video games. Like sometimes one character can make such a big difference. And so I'll just jump in there and listen. And with her, I was just listening to like where she was at, just kind of going on that journey with her. It doesn't take very long. Our conversation was like 5 minutes, but it felt like, half an hour probably just with what we were able to accomplish so quickly. And I believe a lot of that, if not all of that, is God, making it go so well, so quickly. And yeah, that's basically that. But I'm always trying to get better at that. I'm sure I'm going to come up with some more poetry books, etc., about helping people to just have love in their everyday conversations. Because I've had some, friends that I wouldn't have met, from that, and it does usually start with those 30-second conversations.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. And look how much value you added to her life. I mean, she's given you people to pray for. I mean, that doesn't happen every day. And that is so awesome. And she obviously sensed the moment, as she's talking to you and to open up like that. So that is fantastic. Man, it has been an honor having you on. So talk about the two podcasts one more time so folks can know where to go. I would assume Apple, Spotify. I think I listened to yours on Spotify. Talk about those, and then Kenny, you can get ready to close us out.
Yeah, so I know I do have the two podcasts, and I do recommend people listen to that. But I think at least what I feel people should check out is right now Medium. I write on Medium as well. They're doing like a poetry thing. So every day for the next, 20-ish days of April, I won't upload on Sunday, but I'll have enough to make up for that. I'm uploading one of my poems every day. So here's one. So I invite you to jump on that journey with me. And of course, you want to listen to the podcast too. But here's one of them I wrote back in October 2021. It's called Patience in These Pages. I've shared this one on airplanes and other people, and they're like, why isn't this out there? And I finally just uploaded it today on Medium. And I'm like, this will probably be in a book someday, but give that a read. Give it, I'll share it, but like go back, and because I don't think these words are really necessarily all from me. So here's how it starts. Patience in these pages will bring your desired end. Patience in these pages will help you be a true friend. Patience in these pages is what is the current goal. Patience in these pages is what will ease my soul. One page at a time, that is how life occurs. When it is written, it is done. Only lessons to learn. With each decision I write, which each description I choose, which battles I will win and which ones I will lose. Patience in these pages brings kings to their knees. Patience in these pages brings birds to the trees. Patience in these pages puts money on the table. Patience in these pages gives you strength to say, I'm able. Looking back at life is a consuming pastime. When you decide to do that, I think you will find that patience in these pages led to you building a tower within which you can take a perpetual satisfaction shower. So it's not like that's
Awesome.
helped me a lot, just about being like, you know what? A lot can happen in a short period of time. And right now, like we go full circle. I'm just enjoying the day, and I'm thankful to jump on with you. And there's been times I've said no to podcast appearances because I'm like, oh no, I need to get this book out, or I need to get this other thing done. And then those podcasts die because it doesn't continue. And now I'm like, flip, it's like, I cannot believe I missed that.
Yeah.
And so being willing to put yourself out there, just give your message an opportunity to shine and reach somebody.
Yes.
It's such a beautiful thing. And so at this point, I'm just like, you know what, God be thanked. He will do his work through me, and he will reach whoever it needs to reach. And that's all. I just need to be there.
That was amazing. That was amazing. Thank you so much. I got nothing to add, Ken. You can go ahead and close us out. That was just, we need to end on there. Outstanding.
All right, sounds good. That was great. But in the meantime, this is Kenny Squared Ed.
And Kenny and Dallin.
With Sports on the Positive Tip. We will see you guys next time.
Absolutely.